Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including 4-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfalla.
And Ray Alfalla is a 4-time champion of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series.
3-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a 3-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Data packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. Sign up for a free account and download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there, you can analyze and compare 2 laps of your choice, whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also makes it easy for you to request and schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. Visit virtualracingschool.com today to sign up and get started.
Hi everybody, and welcome to season number 4 of the Ray Esports Racing League presented by Spec Racer Sports, Alliance Autosport, and RaceVoice here on Apex Racing TV. It's week number 9, and you know what that means? It's finale week, and after a relaxing night of racing from heaven on earth, Virginia International Raceway last week, we head across the Appalachians to a track design with one singular goal: to be difficult. Whether it be the keyhole or the carousel, each challenging the driver with off-camber downhill runs or Turn 9's launching ramp into Thunder Valley, our drivers will be presented with a course meant to challenge the racer as much as the car. Tonight, the Ray Esports Racing League, as I said, wraps up the regular season at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in lovely Lexington, Ohio. I'm Greg Ginsburg, and tonight we welcome back Brian Donati to the broadcaster's booth for tonight's Battles Royale. And of course, we've got Dennis Branch, who after doing yeoman's work by my side in the commentary booth these last 2 weeks, he gets exiled, unfortunately, once again to the production truck, and we'll be bringing you all the best views of the action. So give it up, everybody, for Dennis. And so if you like what you see tonight, of course, remember to give Dennis and Apex Racing TV a big thumbs up on YouTube. So welcome back, Brian, and you certainly picked a great night to jump back in the saddle.
Well, I tell you what, Greg, it's great to be back, but I tell you what, there'd be no place that I'd rather be in this very much difficult track here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. You're right, it's going to test not only cars, but it is going to test the drivers. And it's going to test the drivers' patience. Even though they're in sims and sitting at tables or sitting in seats, I tell you what, they're going to get tested, and they're going to get tested quickly.
Yeah, Brian, I think this track, a good analogy is to a circuit that we were at very early on in the season, and that's Barber Motorsports Park down in Alabama. And, because your hands, with the exception of the back straightaway here, your hands always seem to be moving here. And much like Barber, corners are off camber. They switch from positive camber to negative camber, and you're just always sawing at the wheel around here. Much as I think we were watching Joaquin Effinger there for a moment, sawing at the wheel through the bus stop. And so should note that tonight we are going to be running what is known as the club course here at Mid-Ohio, and I think it's the first time that we've done it here on the Ray Esports Racing League. Typically, we run what's known as the pro course, the club course. It's 2.4 miles. It's 15 turns and includes that chicane on the front straightaway that leads you up into the keyhole, as opposed to normally we've been running this circuit, the slightly shorter version, the 2.25 mile 13 turn version that just takes you straight from turn 1 up the fairly short straightaway up to the keyhole. It makes for a very different entrance to the keyhole, opens up some definite passing possibilities here as well. It should be a very good evening for very close racing between the two different groups that we have going out. First off, as you can see them on track right now, and we're over halfway through qualifying already. We've got our Mazda MX-5s. They are going to be racing for the 6th and final time here during the regular season. And once we're done with race number 1 here, we're then going to bring in the Spec Racer Fords, and they will have their final race of the season. Our RE2s, the USF 2000 Formula cars, they wrapped things up last week at Virginia International Raceway, and we'll talk a little bit about what happened there in a few moments. But while we've got the MX-5s on track, and you can see here that Morgan Burkhardt right now with about a 1/1600th of a second advantage over his teammate Caleb Patry here in qualifying. And Burkhardt actually, I believe he qualified last week at VIR on the pole by 9/10ths of a second. Really a commanding lead. Let's take a look back to last week, where again Burkhardt finished up qualifying on pole, and both he and Brennan Horan, who are sitting at the top of the championship standings. Horan went into last week as your championship leader. They started off on the front row, and for a good portion of the race, we had a 5-car battle between Burkhardt, Horan, Caleb Patry, Wanshi Lin, who for the first time this season has really put in a very strong drive in the Mazda MX-5s. He is known as a Spec Racer Ford specialist, but we also had Jamison Huffman all together until the very last lap. And in typical MX-5 fashion, Brian, Brennan Horan, with 1 lap to go, he was in 3rd, makes his way up to 1st, falls all the way back to 4th, and then there was another half a lap to go. I mean, that's how things were working out there at the front of the field. And so on the very last lap, coming out of Oak Tree, we had Wanshi Lin and Brennan Horn. They were side by side coming out of Oak Tree. We had Jamison Huffman right behind, and as those 3 drivers were battling, that allowed both Caleb Patry and Burkhardt to separate themselves out. They opened up, I'd say, about a 10, maybe 15 car gap back to 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and they were side by side as they went into turn 14, the top of the roller coaster. Burkhardt, very late on the brakes, puts the car off into the grass. Caleb Patry comes home with the win, comes home with a 3-second win over Wanshi Lin, who finished 2nd, margin over Brennan Horn, who finished 3rd, 3/100ths of a second. And then Jamison Huffman brought the car home in 5th. And so let's take a look at the championship standings now as we come into the very last week here in Mazda MX-5. Brennan Horn, he is no longer your championship leader. That spot now belongs to Caleb Patry, who came into last week in 3rd. He now has a 1-point advantage over Brennan Horn. Morgan Burkhardt sitting 5 points back from there in 3rd. Then we've got Lewis Lockshine. He is quite a distance back. He is 21 points back, and Jamison Huffman sitting back in 5th position right now in the championship. So still, things rather close, Brian. Here again, only a single point separating our 2 protagonists, Caleb Patry and Brennan Horn.
Yeah, I tell you what, Greg, it's definitely going to come back down to the end of the race here. As we talked about this racetrack early on, again, we're starting to see our normal drivers all up front. Morgan Burkhardt, Caleb Patry, Brennan Horan's in fourth, sitting in provisional P4 right now, with Jamison Huffman in between them and the other top two. So again, it's going to come down to the very end of this week.
Yeah, and and there are some wild cards out on track that may certainly shake things up a little bit. Josh Soto in the number 07 machine, he was 18th fastest in practice. He's currently 11th fastest right now. His time is definitely running down in qualifying with less than 2 minutes remaining. And Soto, the very first time I saw him is in another series, the Rick Motec Classic Sprint Series, where he ran here at Mid-Ohio in his rookie outing and took the class win in pretty commanding fashion. So we'll see how he does here. He had a bad week at definitely a bad week at Virginia International Raceway last week. We'll see if he can bounce back, but he could, if he puts himself up towards the front of the pack and he races very well, maybe better than he qualifies, he could make things very difficult for Horan and for Patry. And of course, again, Morgan Burkhardt, he is not out of this battle right now, only 5 points back, and you can see he is he's currently the provisional pole sitter here as things are winding down. Only about a minute left to go here in qualifying from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. And you can see here as we're watching the number 80 car, that's Andrew Wozencroft, as he came out of the chicane, out of the bus stop, and you see how you have to get the rear end of the car to rotate there to get up into the keyhole. It makes things very, very difficult, especially if you want to keep the car to the inside, Brian.
Yeah, it's definitely two different scenarios right there. As you talked about, Greg, you've got to be able to get through that chicane relatively quickly and with relatively ease. It does slow the cars down, as you talked about, getting up around through that keyhole, but you've got to make sure that you get through that keyhole, because that sets you up for that long straightaway back down into turn 4, which would be very tricky. And I think that's where we're going to see a lot of passes as we get to the end of this MX5 race. The end of tonight, where it's going to be heavy braking, where we've seen at a place even like Road Atlanta.
All right, and we're on board right now watching Caleb Patry. Just as the checkered flag comes out, you can see he was caught in the draft. He was working with his teammate Jamison Huffman to see if either one of them could best Morgan Burkhardt to the pole position. But as the checkered flag is now out, it looks like Morgan Burkhardt, he should be able to hold on to pole. Only a few other drivers that might have a chance. Josh Soto comes across the line. He's only going to be as good as 8th. And Morgan Burkhardt there just crosses the line, finishes his last flying lap, does not improve upon his 136.985. But for the moment, nobody else has improved either. So we'll have to see how things end up in the race as our drivers are finishing their cool down laps here. And they will be heading out on track in just a moment. Here for, as we always have here in the Esports Racing League, a 20-minute sprint race. Should be a good, fun, good action as well. As we get ready for them to head to the grid, Brian, let's mention that we are giving away, or we are awarding to a driver in each one of our 3 classes in the MX-5s, in the Spec Racer Fords, and the RE2s, the Excellent Driver Award, and that the trophy is going to be awarded to each driver who competes in at least 5 of the 6 rounds for their class, and over that time amass the fewest incident points in iRacing. The trophies, they are being provided by the Esports Driver Club, who hosts the Spec 5 World Tour on Thursday nights, and we want to thank them for that. I don't have the rundown currently as it stands, but I'll tell you, as we are watching here, just even in qualifying, with Huffman going off and getting 4 incident points, Horan 6 incident points, and I think he accumulated, I think, close to 20 incident points just during the practice earlier. There are some drivers that I think might be out of the running this season. Brian, I think we talked about this a few weeks ago. I think you and I still stand the best chance of winning the award.
Yeah, I think we're tops right now.
All right, as we get ready for the starting grid here, looks like the Flagger up on the starter stand, still just furiously waving that checkered flag. And there you go. Looks like he's giving it up. No, he's still waving away. All right, so Brian, we have the starting grid. Tell you what, why don't I take this one, and you could take the Spec Racer Fords. Starting on the pole tonight with a fast time, 1:36.985, representing the All Sports Racing team. Morgan Burkhardt starting right next to him. Our championship leader at the moment in the number 198 All Sports Racing machine, it's Caleb Patry. Jamison Huffman will start on the inside of row number 2 with Brennan Horan, currently running second in the championship, representing Team Esport Racer, starting on the outside of row number 2. Row number 3, Jordy Fike, Horan's teammate, and then right beside him will be Christopher Bermudez, and starting in 6th place. Kevin Langer will start 7th on the inside of row number 4 with Josh Soto, just a couple tenths off of his qualifying time. Soto starting in 8th. Greg Mack will start in 9th in the number 2 Esport Racer machine with Michael San Inocencio starting in 10th in the number 77 machine. Lewis Lockshine will start on the inside of row number 6 tonight with Justin Huffman making a return visit here in the MX-5s. He did quite well last week at Virginia International Raceway. He is going to start 12th. Charles Vaccaro, and look at this, Brian, should this be any surprise, lining up right next to one another, Charles Vaccaro and Andrew Wozencroft. Then we've got Cooper Lilly and Sean Hayes, Deacon Greenfield and Greg Brockway, John Casey, and Patrick Preventis will start 19th and 20th. And then we've got Buttermore and Effinger, Mark Sherman, and Travis Trussell. Once again, we'll start at the tail of the field as the pace car is on the pit lane. Morgan Burkhardt and Caleb Patry on the front row. Burkhardt has the field, and the green flag is in the air as they make the short run to the Cooper Tires Bridge and make the run into turn 1. You always have to be careful here in the first couple laps not to run wide off into that gravel trap on the outside, and we could see already one of our drivers, and I think that was Jamison Huffman. Actually, that was Soto that ran wide, and a couple more drivers a little bit further back. But coming into the chicane for the first time, it's Burkhardt, it's Patry, it's Horan in the 45 machine side by side. We've got Christopher Bermudez, who got a good start, and then Jamison Huffman, who falls back from 3rd to 5th. Josh Soto already picking up 2 positions in that number 07 machine, the black machine, and you can see him now side by side with Huffman. So even though he ran wide going through turn 1, kept his foot in it, and he's got position as they head down into turn 4. Hard under braking, and let's see if any of them end up in China Beach and getting the position. And a little love tap for good measure is Josh Soto. So move Soto now up into 5th position as they make the run now over Madness down the hill, as cars are now starting to all get in line here, Brian, as looks like things have finally worked themselves out. Well, maybe not. We've got the 32 of Deacon Greenfield. He goes around coming out of Madness, appropriately named here at Mid-Ohio. He gets back underway. He's going to fall all the way back into 32nd, and looks like we've got more damage. Kevin Langer, Greg Mack going around as well. Lots of damage here. That is going into, I think, turn 7. And
yeah, Greg, I was going to say, and also had the 9 there that looked like the Bermudez, who actually got off to that good start. It'd be interesting to see that replay to determine what happened, because as the cars started to come through there, Bermudez was sideways going through there and took out quite a bit of a couple cars. So I'm not sure what had happened there between him and Langer as we look back here now. As I said, Bermudez just got a little loose right there, and Langer thought he could get in there, which he did, but then Bermudez just locked it up going through there just a little bit, and then everybody else had nowhere to go.
Yeah, as they were coming through the S's over at 6, 7, and 8, he just got into that tank slapper and couldn't do anything about it. And then it looked like, for a good measure, he got collected at the end. So lots of damage with those cars. But right now it is a 3-car breakaway. We've got Morgan Burkhardt, Caleb Patry, and Brennan Horan. And you'll see there Josh Soto sitting up in 4th position now. I told you, he races very well and carries a very good pace. We'll have to see what he can do without the draft here. But a little bit bit further back in the field, Lockshine with Justin Huffman. Justin Huffman made up 3 positions. I think it's part of that, and there he is there in the first car in that batch, the 223 car. I think might have to do with some of the unfortunate happenings of the drivers up ahead. He's got he's got his own little breakaway group there, battle for 9th with Lockshine, Wozencroft, and Brockway trailing behind as they crest over the top of the hill and down into Thunder Valley.
Yeah, just trying to get settled in here. As you said, yeah, Justin Huffman picking up 3 spots, moving up there a little bit. Jameson Huffman on that start didn't get a good one. You talked about Joshua Soto here a little bit further back. He's going to actually have some help coming up with Jameson Huffman. And let's throw in that 09 there of Jordy Fike. Jordy Fike is going to end up catching the back of those 2 cars as well.
That's
so
right.
we could end up two battles here with 3 cars, Greg.
That's right. And so Jordy Fike did not run with us last week at Virginia International Raceway, and it caused him to drop down the order in the championship. Actually was 5th going into last week, came out in 9th in the championship, so he's going to try and claw some of those points back. And yeah, we'll have to see now if Soto and Jameson Huffman, who just ran the fastest lap so far, of course we're only on lap number 3 right now, turned in a 1:37.82, considerably faster than the drivers up ahead as they now come breaking into 4. And I'd like to think that that both he and Soto will try to work together at least a little bit longer to try and draft up to the pack. Again, it worked very well at VIR. As we mentioned, they were in we had a 5-car battle for the lead at VIR for the majority of the race. And you remember Soto was in line for a podium position at Lime Rock Park a couple of weeks ago and had issues with the sausage curbs at that chicane, put the car around, I believe, on the very last lap and fell back through the order. But again, very, very strong here in the MX-5s, and looks as though both he and Jameson Huffman are definitely starting to close up on our lead our lead 3 as we jump back now over a little bit further back in the pack. We've got Butterfield in the green and purple number 73. We've got Greenfield in the 32, who had put that car around a little bit earlier. And then we've got Sean Hayes in the 94. Sean Hayes had a very strong running at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca a few weeks ago. A little surprising to see him back mired back in 18th here at Mid-Ohio.
Yeah, those 3, those 3 definitely be going at it. We got Joaquin Effinger just a little bit further ahead of them. But, you know, as we've talked about many, many times between last season and this season, where there's a Buttermore, where there is a Buttermore, there's an Effinger right in front of them.
Effinger.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, those 2 are always together. So, yeah, most definitely. We look back here at our leaders. And actually now we look at Jameson Huffman has gone around Joshua Soto for that 4th position, Greg. So it looks like Huffman was, a little bit faster than Soto. Soto hanging on to that back bumper right now. But I think Huffman's going to be just a little bit faster and start to pull away to catch up to those teammates.
Yeah, I think that may be the case. 2nd lap in a row that Jameson Huffman, fastest driver on track, turned in a 1:37.8. Next fastest driver, our current leader, and that's another big change. Caleb Patry, who's gotten around Morgan Burkhardt. Caleb Patry turned in a 1:37.90. So the 2 leaders swapped positions. The 198 car now your leader. Morgan Burkhardt running in 2nd, as it looks like John Casey having a bit of an issue coming out of turn 9. That again, that big rise and then drop that you have coming into Thunder Valley as cars are starting to stack up a little bit back behind Effinger and Casey.
Yeah, you know, Greg, again, still, only at the 7-minute mark here of this race, guys have really got to start taking care of the equipment. We talked about this. Even though it's a sim and even though you're racing, kind of online, you've still got to take care of the equipment. And that's brakes and that is tires. And so you'll see some guys that are going to be a little bit faster than others as we get through this middle part of this race of how well that they take care of their stuff early on. And then the ones who really went out and really went after it, those are the ones that are going to fall back just a little bit more. So you've got to be smooth and you've got to be able to hit those shifting points at certain times, especially on this Mid-Ohio track.
Yeah, and this is a track certainly where even in these 20-minute races, you could run off the tires, as you just saw the drivers there come out of madness and then turn into turn 6, where it goes from being on camber to off camber. You're always seemingly just sliding this car around and through corners. You can see the slip angles there as they crest over the hill at turn 9 and go into Thunder Valley. It's going to be like that. It's pretty much like that in almost every single turn complex. Probably the one turn that puts the least amount of load on the tires here is turn 1 when you come underneath that Cooper tire bridge. And maybe, and I think right here as we see the drivers coming into the final corner right now, coming into turn 13, where it's cambered, it's banked, it goes downhill, and it's not, drivers do have a tendency sometimes to turn early there and go off into the grass, but again, it doesn't load the car up as much as some of the other corners here you have at Mid-Ohio.
Right. No, exactly. 100%. And you've got to be, as you said, you've got to be smooth from start to finish. And I think having the chicane in the middle here, going up out of turn 1 up towards the keyhole, that actually throws in that extra point. We talked about it at the beginning. You've got to be able to get through that left, and you've got to be able to get back through that right again to get back to that other right within the keyhole. So it really does upset the car quite a bit.
All right, so we're continuing to watch here with Soto and Huffman trying to make up ground on our 3 leaders, Caleb Patry, Morgan Burkhardt, and Brennan Horan. And, even as long as the straightaway, the back straight is here at Mid-Ohio, coming out of the keyhole and making the run down to turn 4 over by China Beach, it didn't look like Soto was really able to pick up all that much in the draft. Maybe a little bit of a surprise there as we continue to watch this great little battle here with Justin Huffman, Lockshine, and Andrew Wozencroft, battle for 9th as these 3 cars. Again, and you see this in MX5 racing throughout the country almost every week, Brian. It doesn't matter whether you're at the front of the field, the back of the field, or the middle of the field. You always seem to have very close racing, and a lot of it is because these cars, they're very neutral handling, they're easy to control, they're not that fast for that matter, and it's not, you can run them on the edge seemingly all day long, or at least until you take the tires out of the equation.
Yeah, I think once you take the tires out, everything just, everything changes. As we look at this battle here again, a little bit further back, Buttermore, Greg Mack, who had that earlier problem, now trying to fight back here to try to get past Wayne Buttermore, if that would be for the 18th spot. And then you throw in Sean Hayes. They're trying to run up and try to catch. It looks like that's going to be Deacon Greenfield and Joaquin Effinger, who are a little bit further ahead of them. But Greg Mack having that problem early on when we saw Christopher Bermudez spin. So now he's got his work cut out for him.
All right, so here we go. New change in position, new leader coming down into turn 4, rising up the hill in the madness. Morgan Burkhardt takes over the point from Caleb Patry. And as we saw in that previous shot there, we had Lockshine and Wozencroft, or pardon me, a little bit, we were talking a little bit further back where I think Effinger and Casey were able to get around Deacon Greenfield, or pardon me, let's try that again. Greg Mack and Sean Hayes were able to get past Wayne Buttermore. That's the battle that we were watching earlier, but we've had a number of drivers swap positions here in just the last couple of minutes. And Brian, as we watch here, and we saw that change in position going down in the turn 4 between Burkhardt and Patry, it kind of reminded me of a Formula V race, and that they kind of just let it happen. Patry let Burkhardt through. He didn't fight it all that much, because I think they both know that they've got Brendan Horan sitting right back behind them. And, the last thing that you want to do is put yourself in a bad position as you switch back up, coming up the hill, to put him in a position to maybe overtake and get into the lead. Yeah,
it's still early on in this race. I mean, we're kind of in the 12-minute mark. We got just a little bit over that halfway. You're right. It's just kind of like a nice, easy move. Hey, look, let's just deal with it later on. I'll let you go ahead and go now. We got to try to get away from Brendan Horan. But I don't think they're going to get away from him. I think he's there to stay. The battle between Jameson Huffman and Joshua Soto just a little bit further back. Last couple laps, they've dropped about, half a second. So they're starting to catch this group, as now Horan's trying to push the issue here with Patry and Burkhardt. coming through 5 and 6 here, getting ready to go up underneath the Honda Bridge, Greg.
Yeah, and you can see him sawing at the wheel there. Should note that Josh Soto just set the fastest lap of the race at a 1:37.58 there, as he is getting pulled along by Jamison Huffman. But, again, they don't seem to be making up that much ground. I believe they're about a second and a half off of our top 3 drivers. Interesting that I was saying that talking about Brendan Horn maybe not being a candidate for the excellent driver award. Well, as it turns out, he coming into this lap had 0 incident points in the race, and just as I was about to say something, he clocked 2. So there you go. All right, we're on board right now, watching Charles Vaccaro battle with Michael San Inocencio. This is the battle for 7th, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Charles Vaccaro has found some pace and some speed in a couple of these different classes over the last season that he hadn't shown through seasons 1 through 3. Maybe I should get in touch with his coach because I might need it.
Well, I can tell you what, he's definitely driving with no left side mirror, because that mirror is hanging down.
You don't need that one.
So that mirror really doesn't come into play. As you can see there, thanks to Dennis in the production shot giving me a good shot of that, being able to pick that up. So if he doesn't have to look at that, he can focus all out in front.
Yeah, it just means he can get about a couple inches closer if he decides to shoot down the inside here, going into turn 4. But he decides not to do it, and we jump back over to the battle for the lead here. Still Burkhardt, who had gotten around Patry 2 laps ago. Then we've got Brendan Horn sitting in 3rd, and although the two guys at the front have swapped positions a couple times, the gap, the distance between each of these 3 cars really hasn't changed any since the very first lap. And you can see there Horn kind of biding his time. We'll see if he can do anything with the draft. But what did I say, that there was about a second and a half difference between Horn in 3rd and then Huffman and Soto working together? It looks like they've knocked maybe a 10th or 2 out of that in the last lap. As you'll notice here, Morgan Burkhardt picking up incident points pretty much every single lap as he drops the right wheel going off on the outside of turn 4, or probably turn 1. But again, doesn't seem to upset the car any. And as we found last week, when it was in a different class, Brian. We were watching the RE2 race at Virginia International Raceway last week, and both he and Caleb Patry went side by side up through the S's, and they both went off into the grass. Burkhardt driver's right, and didn't seem to lose any speed, didn't lose any ground, gave up the lead. But at some of these tracks, I'm starting to think that runs through the grass are actually faster than staying on the pavement.
And some of them they are. You're absolutely correct here. As we drop back just a little bit further, we're going to watch this Jamison Huffman, Joshua Soto as our front 3. Greg, coming up on about 4 minutes left to go here, I'm going to be a little concerned whether or not Joshua Soto has used up his equipment to do everything he can with those pretty fast laps that he set early on, whether or not he's going to be able to get by Jamison Huffman. We talked about that lead, between the front 3 and then the Huffman and Soto. That's now back up to 1.6. So as they're starting to battle, they're going to start losing some of that pace, where those front 3 are going to be able to start to pull away.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see here. The last lap or so, it's looked as though, whereas Huffman had the pace on the early laps, I would suspect that Soto maybe has the car set up a little bit differently, and as the car gets a little lighter and runs off a little bit of fuel, it seems to be the better handling of the 2 cars. And we may have seen that perhaps Huffman didn't completely run off his tires, but maybe wasn't so kind to them in the first 5 laps or so of this race. And at least right now, it looks like Soto has better pace. It's just a question of whether or not he can do something with it.
Yeah, and I think once we get back to the start-finish line here, we may end up with only 1 lap after that to go. So Jamison Huffman and Joshua Soto, they've got to really, really work together and hope those 3, as we talked about, really start to battle quickly, because it's probably going to be about a lap and a half left in this race. And here we go, Greg. We're side by side with Jameson Huffman and Joshua Soto. So Joshua Soto starting to push the issue. So he must be listening to the broadcast as well.
Apparently so.
He knows it.
I was gonna say, as they come into the S's now and crest over the top of that hill over at turn 9. Yeah, he's you can see here, he's trying to work his way through going into Thunder Valley.
Pretty good run coming out of there too. I mean, really got that lift. So that car may be just a little bit faster than Huffman. So I'd be wondering if whether or not Jameson Huffman burned off his tires, you know, and that equipment early on, trying to stay ahead of Soto.
Yeah, and and as they came out of 9 and they worked through Thunder Valley, it looked like Huffman, I don't think he let out of the throttle, but I mean, Soto went by him like he was standing still, but again, now these two drivers, they've put themselves in a position where they are now almost 2 full seconds off of our lead trio. With what should be as I didn't see if the white flag was in the air.
Didn't see the white flag, no. So I think we're probably going to get another lap and a half here.
Yeah, and I would suspect with the lap times being a little bit under 140, we'll see. They should be crossing the stripe just before the clock hits that 20-minute mark here. So let's follow now our leaders, Morgan Burkhardt, Caleb Patry, Brendan Horn, as they come through the little kink at turn 3, and now under braking, going down into turn 4, immediately heading up the hill as the camber changes into madness as they roll back down the hill. And you can see now as both Patry and also, and a little bit of tire smoke there from Burkhardt, as Patry and Horn perhaps looking at some alternate lines, ways to get by our leader Morgan Burkhardt here as they come through turn 9. And so we've got a little bit under 40 seconds left on the clock here, and I think that is going to leave us, Brian, with an additional lap here as they come down, make their way down to the carousel, late on the brakes, get the car rotated, get to that apex curbing right there. In real life, a big divot which will upset the car, but then dropping down into turn 13 and onto the front straight. And indeed, we are going to have one final lap. White flag is now in the air, and both Burkhardt and Patry have separated themselves out just a little bit from Brendan Horn here on the last lap, Brian.
Yeah, I tell you what, this is going to be a critical point here as Morgan Burkhardt's really starting to open up by about a half a car length and a half as they come out of some of these certain positions, Greg. I'm really wanting to see whether or not Morgan Burkhardt can get a little bit further away from Caleb Patry coming out of this keyhole, getting down this long straightaway. But I tell you what, don't count out Brendan Horn, because here he comes. He's still right on the back bumper of Caleb Patry. So it's definitely going to come into the last final turn. It's probably going to come into that turn 9, as we've been talking about all night long.
Yeah, so Burkhardt stays all the way to the inside to defend. Both Patry and Horn had great runs coming through the keyhole. Burkhardt had actually checked up just a little bit, and both the drivers had to then check up right behind, as we are now side by side coming over madness. And Brendan Horn, for a moment, looked like he was going to try and make it 3 wide. He's going to try and stick the car underneath Caleb Patry as they head down into the S's through 6, over the crest at 7, downhill, down into the run towards turn number 9. And Burkhardt somehow manages to hold off the 198 and the 45 as they crest over the top of turn 9, go into the Thunder Valley for the very last time. These drivers now having opened up almost a 5-second advantage over Soto and Huffman now as they come into the carousel. Burkhardt sticks the car all the way to the inside. You can see him dragging the inside, the front wheel through the grass, and as he comes through turn 13 onto the front straight, if he doesn't lose the car, show it off, Morgan Burkhardt is going to take the win. Well, he did it after he crossed the stripe. Morgan Burkhardt, your winner tonight in the MX-5s. Caleb Patry finishes 4/10 back. Brendan Horn, he'll finish on the last step of the podium in 3rd. Josh Soto will come home in 4th, with Huffman rounding out the top 5. Jordy Fight, good run for Jordy. He comes home in 6th. Michael San Inocencio picks up 3 positions to finish 7th. Charles Vaccaro finishes in 8th, having started in 12th position. Louis Lockstein will finish 9th, and Justin Huffman will round out the top 10. So, Brian, really, really tight, close running there from Patry and from Burkhardt. Great runs from both of them, and and it just looked as though Brendan Horn, who again was trying to take back the lead in the championship here from Caleb Patry, just too little, too late, and and he was basically dealing with 2 teammates that were running side by side through the tightest sections of the course.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Greg. And I think that, in some of those cases, I think they may have been saving some stuff there, to the last couple minutes of this race.
All right, well, tell you what, is we run a little short on time here. Let's bring in our second place finisher tonight. That was Caleb Patry in the number 198 machine.
Caleb Patry, congratulations on that second place finish here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Club Sports Course. I'll get this right here in a minute. But talk about that run between you and Morgan Burkhardt. Were you guys saving a little bit here? Because it didn't seem like you guys were really looking to battle until you got to the last couple of minutes.
Yeah, I was definitely trying to save a little bit because I know our setups took a little bit of time to come in, and then they'd drop off after maybe 5 or 6 laps. So I was mainly just trying to save the tires and just try to keep my nose clean. Thinking championship, I knew if Morgan was going to win the race, I just had to hold second behind him. So that's was just kind of my game plan, and it got a little feisty there towards the end, but thankfully I held off Brennan there.
Well, I tell you what, again, congratulations. It was a great run to see you guys both nice and smooth and coming back and really trying to battle that towards the end. Who do you want to thank tonight here for the second place finish here at Mid-Ohio?
It's certainly All Sports Racing for their setup and support. It's Steve Ray, everybody at Ray Esports for setting these events up. You guys for the broadcast. And yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, again, congratulations, Caleb Patry. He's going to finish second here. Greg, I'm going to send it back over to you.
All right, not only does Caleb Patry finish second here tonight, but I believe with tonight's podium finish, he takes home the Season 4 MX5 Championship. So congratulations, Caleb. All right, let's bring in our winner tonight, driver the number 40 All Sports Racing machine, Morgan Burkhardt.
Morgan Burkhardt, congratulations on your win here at Mid-Ohio. I tell you what, we had your teammate in here a couple seconds ago, and I'll ask you the same questions. You guys seem to be nice and smooth, really kind of playing along with each other there pretty much throughout the entire race until you got to that 3-minute mark. Talk about that run and talk about how important it was to be able to be that smooth and take care of your equipment here on this rough racetrack.
Well, it was definitely going to be more of a survive race from the start. It always is from Mid-Ohio. So the game plan was just kind of survive the race, don't make any mistakes, and kind of stay in line and make sure you save the tires because at the end it's going to come down to a dogfight.
Sure. But again, I tell you what, a nice, very smooth run. So again, congratulations on this win here. Who'd you like to thank tonight?
I'd definitely like to thank Caleb and the rest of the team for helping us as always. Like to thank my parents for making all of this possible. Shout out to Premier Racing Setups for all of their help and make some great setups. So you can head over to their website, premierracingsetups.com. You can use Burkhardt 15, Schooler 15, Nichols 15 in the at checkout, and you get 15% off.
All right. Well, there you go, guys. Go over there, see them, get yourself some setup, and you too can be a winner just like Morgan Burkhardt here at Mid-Ohio. Again, Greg, send it back over to you.
All right, sounds good. I figured if I use each one of those codes, I could get like 45% off. So it might be the plan going forward here. And with Morgan's win tonight, I believe he's going to take home third in the MX5 championship. So no repeat this year after he took the championship last year, but congratulations to Morgan Burkhardt nonetheless. All right, so Brian, of course, this race that we just watched, the MX5 race here from Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, was brought to you by RaceVoice, who, as they have from the very start of the Ray Esports Racing League, has been proud to sponsor our racers. You can take your driving to the next level with on-track audible performance alerts with RaceVoice and RaceVoiceSIM. Hear miles per hour, turn entry and exit speeds, upshift alerts, and other performance metrics which are selected and configured by you. To find out more about their products, head to racevoice.com. You can go faster with the speed of voice. And so with that, let's take a quick break, Brian. We're going to get set up here in the studio for our second and final race of the evening, the Spec Racer Fords. And in the meantime, we'll thank some of our other great sponsors of the Ray Esports Racing League. You're watching week number 9 of season 4 of the Ray Esports Racing League live from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, and we'll be right back.
Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including 4-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfala.
And Ray Alfala is a 4-time champion of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series.
3-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a 3-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Data packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. Sign up for a free account and download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there, you can analyze and compare 2 laps of your choice, whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also makes it easy for you to request and schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. Visit virtualracingschool.com today to sign up and get started.
All right, and we are back here at a virtual Mid-Ohio sports car course in beautiful, in lovely Lexington, Ohio. And of course, I say that facetiously. But I'm Greg Ginsburg along with Brian Donati, and we've got Dennis Branch flipping all the levers and pulling all the handles there to make sure that we've got a great broadcast here. And if you like what you see, please go ahead and click on that big thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe to Apex Racing TV and click on that notification bell to find out about all the great virtual motorsports action from around the world, seemingly 24/7. And so, Brian, we've got qualifying underway right now in Spec Racer Ford. And you can see here we're about 6.5 minutes into the 15-minute session. And so while they're going in, and I'm looking, and only about half of the drivers out that are in the session now have set qualifying times. So let's take a look back. We'll first start off with the class that is not racing here tonight, and that is the RE2s, or the USF 2000 Formula cars. They put in their 6th and final outing last week at Virginia International Raceway. And it was an exciting one, to say the least. I think I mentioned it during the MX5 race. Caleb Patry and Morgan Burkhardt, who had started off on the front row of that race, something you would never expect to see in the MX5s. And Dennis and I were waiting for the carnage to happen as both Burkhardt and Patry went into the uphill S's side by side, and inevitably, as you might expect, they got together. Patry went off driver's left and went for a long ride up to the villas, perhaps seeing some of the folks that rent the apartments trackside there at VIR. Morgan Burkhardt went off to the grass driver's right and rejoined right at about South Bend, and only fell back 1 position. And Tyler Campbell, who was sitting in 4th at the time, comes up to the lead, and Campbell looking for some redemption off of some fairly painful races this season in the RE2s. He worked his way up. Both he and Morgan Burkhardt, they were nose to tail for the next 8 laps, and with just 2.5 minutes remaining in the race, Tyler Campbell, he turns in early going into Oak Tree, drops a wheel driver's left, and the car shoots across the track off into the grass, leaving Morgan Burkhardt all by himself. Campbell managed to bring the car home in fourth. But another great battle, father and son, Jamison Huffman and Justin Huffman, were pretty much nose to tail the entire race. Justin Huffman got a great start, led his son for I think the first 4 laps or so, and then Jamison got around. They finished second and third, Campbell finishing in fourth to Burkhardt. And so let's take a quick look now at the point standings and how things finished up. Again, the regular season championship already wrapped up in RE2. Caleb Patry takes home the championship. So that's 2 championships now for Caleb, and really a very commanding stance over the rest of the field. He had 135 points. John Wilson, who finished 8th last week at VIR, comes home second in the championship with 87 points. Jamison Huffman finishes third with 80, 1 point up on his teammate Morgan Burkhardt, and Mark Santana finishes out the season in 5th position. We can see there Tyler Campbell, who we were talking about. Again, not the season I think he wants to remember. He came home in 6th. Murphy Nichols 7th. Then Justin Huffman, Zach Burke, who did not race last week, nor did Greg Brockway. They finished 9th and 10th. And if we take a look now at the Spec Racer Fords in here, let's throw up where we stand in qualifying right now. John Vogel, your provisional pole sitter, just turns in a 135.278. That's 44 thousandths of a second up on Morgan Burkhardt, with Jamison Huffman not all that far behind. Jamison Huffman only about 500ths of a second back. He's sitting back there with fast time right now of 135.33. Those are your top 3. Then Grant Vogel, then Bob Kutsera, and Mark Santana. And it looks like just had a little change there. Is looks like John Vogel. No, John Vogel did not reset his time, but Brennan Horan puts himself into 5th position here. Let's take a quick look and see where we stand in the championship right now. And since the Spec Racer Fords, they did not race last week here at VIR. They had the week off. Just a quick recap of Summit Point Motorsports Park for their 5th race of the championship, where we had Morgan Burkhardt going into turn 1 on lap 2 side by side with Wan Chi Lin and Caleb Patry. Morgan Burkhardt unfortunately found the gravel trap as he was on the outside. We had a lot of attrition in that race, with Caleb Patry taking the win, Wan Chi Lin finishing 2nd. John Vogel, who was our winner at Lime Rock, came home in 3rd. Morgan Burkhardt finished 4th, and then Greg Mack. And if we take a look at the championship now, it's Caleb Patry's to lose. Patry right now, let's see where Patry is qualified at the moment. Currently qualified, and there you go, just as I'm pulling up his name, he jumps from 8th to 5th. So Caleb Patry currently 5th fastest on track. He is your championship leader with 107 points, quite a bit ahead of John Vogel, Morgan Burkhardt, only 2 points separating Vogel and Burkhardt. Then Mark Santana at 67, Wan Chi Lin at 64, and rounding so very, very close right there in that battle for 4th. But a real tight championship, unless you look at the top of the order. And as we saw last season, Brian, where Morgan Burkhardt took home the championship in all 3 classes, it would take quite a bit for Caleb Patry to not come home with 3 championships this evening.
Yeah, it's going to be a little difficult task here for John Vogel, although sitting right now up in provisional P2 right now. But it's going to be tough here in the Spec Racer Fords for anybody to really catch Caleb Patry. I think with a nice, good, clean race here, working with teammates of Burkhardt and Huffman, it's going to be tough for anybody to even come close to beating him right now.
Yeah, and so, we were talking during the last race, the MX-5 race, and I was a little surprised that the draft wasn't playing as big a factor as I thought it would, especially going down the fairly long back straight here. I suspect things might be a little bit different with the Spec Racer Fords if what we saw last week at Virginia International Raceway has anything to do with it. Actually, the Spec Racer Fords weren't at for VIR last week. So completely forget that I said that. And I'm just working on fumes now. And so, but we'll have to see. I have a feeling that, again, because of the way the bodies are set up on these cars, that if you can tuck in under the gearbox of the car ahead of you, it may be easy not only to stay in a pack, but to work yourself up and act as a bridge to other packs ahead. So, we'll see how this plays out. Now is Jamison Huffman now with a late lunge, now with just a bit over a minute remaining in qualifying here. He takes provisional pole, turns in a 1:35.044. That's 0.05 of a second up on his teammate Morgan Burkhardt. That moves the two Vogels, Grant Vogel and John Vogel, back to third and fourth respectively. And you can see how close they are to one another. They are only 0.03 of a second apart. Caleb Patry, who is, I believe, sitting on the pit lane currently, is at the moment scheduled to start fifth with Brennan Horn right beside him.
Yeah, and this is another, you talk about the draft and getting up underneath the gearbox to be able to do it. This is another car here at this track. This track is very abrasive, as you well know, Greg, and this track is very hard on equipment. You still have to take care of your tires here, as we heard from both Morgan Burkhardt and Caleb Patry, from our last MX5 race. You basically have to take care of everything you can until those last several minutes. Both of them, just came right out and said, hey, look, we got to take care of everything, try to get away as best as we can, but that's actually going to be the same scenario you're going to see here in this Spec Racer Ford race here tonight, is you're going to see those guys really try to work with each other and try to separate themselves from the Vogels, because those Vogels are going to work together and try to separate that all sports team there.
Yeah, certainly will. Here tonight, and and some of these drivers, Brian, as I was skimming through the official iRacing series, some of these drivers may be in pretty good stead here tonight. That last week, the official iRacing Spec Racer Ford series was at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Some of the drivers, like we know Wanchi Lin, who races with us very often and also races with the Weekend Warriors League, was at Mid-Ohio this past weekend as well. And some of these drivers, they might have some additional seat time that they've been able to put in here to prep for the race here. I know I tried to put in a couple laps earlier this week, and I can't tell you how many times I spun the Spec Racer Ford out going into turn number 4. Lift off and lift throttle oversteer is not my friend in the Spec Racer Ford. I just reset and reset and reset. We'll have to see how these drivers do here tonight. I suspect they won't have the troubles that I have, as we watch right now Josh Justice in the 399 machine. And the checkered flag is out on the qualifying sessions. The drivers are on their last laps, and here's the big change. Morgan Burkhardt manages to get past and around his teammate Jamison Huffman in the last minute or so, and by just about 1/10 of a second. We'll call it 99 thousandths to be a little bit more precise. But you can't, you look at this field here and how close some of these drivers are. It's really quite amazing that over 2.25 miles that they can be just within thousandths of a second of one another.
Yeah. Pretty astonishing there.
All right, so the session should be wrapping up here in just a minute. Again, the flag are up on the starter stand. You can see him there once again waving furiously to let all the drivers know that the session is done. Get back to the pit lane so we can get gridded up for this race. And Brian, while we get ready to grid up here, and we'll talk about them a little bit more a little bit later, but of course, want to thank and welcome Spec Racer Sports to the Ray Esports Racing League. And again, we'll talk about them a little bit more as the night goes on. But I'm going to hand it over to you for tonight's starting Spec Racer Ford grid.
Yeah, we'll try to get as much as we can here in before we get started. But starting on the pole is going to be the number 40 of Morgan Burkhardt. Starting outside of Morgan Burkhardt is going to be the 89 of Jamison Huffman. Starting on the second row on the inside is going to be the 7 of Grant Vogel. Starting next to Grant Vogel is going to be the number 4 of John Vogel. Starting in the 5th position, the 198, of Caleb Patry. Starting next to Caleb Patry in the number 45 is going to be Brennan Horan. Starting in the 7th position is going to be the number 8 of Bob Kucera. Starting next to Bob in the number 8 position is going to be the 222 of Mark Santana. Starting 9th is going to be the 57 of Edgar Sancinelli. Starting in the 10th position is going to be the 223 of Justin Huffman. Starting in 11th is going to be the 399 of Joshua Justice. Starting next to him is going to be the 09 of Jordy Fike as our cars start to roll up towards the start-finish line. Starting 13th is going to be the 2 of Greg Mack. 14th is going to be the Charles Ficcaro. Andrew Rosencroft is going to start 15th. Mike Key is going to start 16th. Wayne Buttermore is going to be 17th. And John Casey will round out your top 18 cars, as it looks like, Greg, we are under a green flag condition.
That's right. We are underway here from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Jumping out to an early lead is Morgan Burkhardt, and side by side Grant Vogel and Jamison Huffman as they come through turn 1 and head into the keyhole. And we can see right behind Caleb Patry, who lost a position on the start here. He drops back to 5th, but it looks like Grant Vogel, he's going to get pushed all the way to the outside going into the keyhole. He's going to have to take the long way around as John Vogel now side by side with Grant as they make the run out of the keyhole down the back straight here. And things are still 2 by 2 a little bit further back. We've got Mark Santana side by side with the black Esport racer machine of Brennan Horn. They're sitting right back behind Bob Kucera. And things are still kind of tight as it looks like Grant and John Vogel have gotten things straightened out going into turn 4 and up towards madness, with Grant taking 4th. Oh, and we have a driver off. I believe that was John Casey in the 049 racing machine. He goes off at turn 4. Hey, and what was I saying about the liftoff oversteer going into turn 4? As John Casey goes off, Mike Key goes off, and Deacon Greenfield in the number 32 machine, he goes off as well.
I'll tell you what, Greg, our front 10, 15 cars now have all gotten single file, led by Morgan Burkhardt, Jamison Huffman, and then Caleb Patry. And right there on that start, as we started to watch down as they came out of the keyhole, John Vogel, Grant Vogel, as you said, they were side by side. John Vogel tucked back in behind Grant, thought better of trying to make that path, trying to let those leaders get away. They got back to nose to tail, as now our leaders are starting to come out through turn 1. And Morgan Burkhardt has really opened up over his teammates there of Jamison Huffman and Caleb Patry. Looks like we get one car of that may be the Mark Sherman that is on pit road right now.
Yeah, it looks like he's gone in. And so, you look through the field here as our leaders are all coming out of the chicane. And, it looks like about an 11-car train here at the front of the pack. The big difference is the number 40 machine of Morgan Burkhardt, that he got such a jump coming out of the final corner and onto the front straight at the start of this race, and he was really able to separate himself out from the field. And over the course of even the first lap, drivers weren't able to draft up to him. But now if you take a look here, looks as though, and going around, that is the number 7 of Grant Vogel, and he is going to now drop back through the field. He's going to have to look for a space to get back in, and he loops the car around a second time. He's going to do a 720 and rejoins just ahead of Joaquin Effinger. That was I'm sure he didn't want us to be on him for that long there, but that's going to drop Grant now back towards I think towards the 16th position, and he did that from 3rd. But what I was going to say was Morgan Burkhardt got that great first jump out of the gate, and even with all of these cars lined up, nobody was able to draft up to him, as it looks like the 89 of Huffman has problems going into the carousel. Huffman now drops back to 5th here, so he's going to lose a couple of positions, and now things in the top 5 starting to spread out a little bit. Let's take a look at the replay and see what happened to Jamison.
Yeah, it starts to come up through there. Starts to make that right-hander there on that last turn. Oh, just overshoots it. Just never even turned the car.
Yeah,
it's like the car just never even wanted to turn on him.
And that is such a difficult corner. The entrance to the carousel at Mid-Ohio, a little bit hard to tell with some of the camera angles that we have, but it's a pretty steep drop. As you make the run, and it'll drop away just as you're making that right-hand turn, and it's a slight bit off camber. And if the car pushes a little wide, it's very often very hard to recover as it gets very flat out there. And that's just what happened. You saw he just understeered right off the track. As we now have side by side Josh Justice and Edgar Sancinelli going down into turn 4. We've got Mark Santana, I think, in that battle as well. And actually, there's Santana in the 222 machine. So Justice gets around Santana. Oh, in contact between Santana and Jordy Fike. And again, that is right around 8th position right now. But, I would say the one thing, Brian, and we see a whole bunch of those Team Esport racers in the same area there. We got Fike, we got a couple cars back, we got Greg Mack, and then we've got Brendan Horn, who lost 6 positions here at the start of the race. These Spec Racer Fords, they are very resilient, and they can take, a little bit of side-by-side bumping and banging without incurring a lot of damage to the car.
Yeah, nothing like an MX-5 could take a little bit and still keep on going, but you're right, Greg. These guys can really take some couple knocks here and there before eventually it starts to just, weigh in heavily on your setup there, and it can just throw everything completely out of whack.
Wow, and talking about going out of whack there, the 222 of Sherman, he's still having problems. So the exit of the pit lane at Mid-Ohio, it runs right next to the main track surface going through turn 1, and there is a pretty extended sausage curb. And yeah, the bad lap for Mark Santana continues as he spins going through the keyhole. Also going around, it looks like Andrew Wozencroft trying to avoid, spun the car through the keyhole as well. But there's the sausage curbing there, and if you stick all the way to the inside and want to hit the apex at turn 1, it can really lift these Spec Racer Fords up and loosen them up. And for years, you'd find drivers that in order to open up turn 1 would actually drive over that sausage curbing. Some cars you can do it, some cars you can't. Most race organizations now, if they see you do it, you'll get penalized.
Yeah. And we showed on screen there Brendan Horan. He is having a very difficult time in this Spec Racer Ford here race tonight, as opposed to what he did early on in that MX-5. So he is starting to struggle a little bit more as we drop back just a little bit more here. Joaquin Effinger, and I tell you what, that means Wayne Buttermore must be near him.
Must be close by.
He's, he's starting to battle there with the 140 there, Travis Trussell. And the more I say that, then you've got Deacon Greenfield, and then you've got Wayne Buttermore just a couple seconds back there. So he should start to reel in Greenfield and Effinger as they start to head through the field.
And we should watch Travis Trussell. I mean, not sit and keep the camera on him the entire race, but we should watch Travis Trussell. At Summit Point in the Spec Racer Ford race, he started tail end Charlie. I think he started 26th and worked his way all the way up, I believe, to 6th or 7th. There, I mean, he just went through the whole field. I was talking to him afterwards. He says, "Oh yeah, I like to start from the back of the pack and and work my way through and just be advantageous." And and people were just falling off the track all the way around him. So we'll see how it works out for him here at Mid-Ohio as we track. There's Bob Kucera in the number 8 machine just ahead of him. We've got Jamison Huffman trying to make his recovery drive, and kind of difficult for him as Huffman now, though, finds his way back up in the 5th position, right back behind Edgar Sancinelli. And Sancinelli, he is nothing if not taking advantage of everything that's given to him. He started 9th tonight, and he is currently up in the 4th, just off the podium.
Yeah, I tell you what, Edgar Sancinelli is really making a good run here. Moved up 5 positions. Look, we got a couple other guys. They're having a little bit of problem. That looks like that is the 78 there of John Casey. So again, John Casey going around again there, coming down that hill into turn 4. As we lose there, the 8 of Bob Kucera spins there, Greg, as he's starting to come up over the hill. Again, that off-camber turn there really will upset your car if you don't get into it right, at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, and and again with the Spec Racer Fords, there was always the complaint in iRacing that the original version of the Spec Racer Ford that was modeled after the Gen 2 cars was very tail happy, and maybe even a little bit more so than real life. But with the onset of the Gen 3 cars with the lighter engines in the rear of the car, and they are, according to some Spec Racer Ford drivers, very closely modeled after the real life car. You just have to be very careful with throttle application, or actually removing your foot from the throttle, because it's very easy to transfer that weight from the back of the car to the front. And when you look at turn number 4, where it is a quick downhill off-camber right-hand turn, you let out of that throttle even just a little bit too much, and the rear end is just going to spin around on you.
Yeah, Absolutely. As we take a little bit further back here, we talk about Travis Trussell here. He's still battling with the Joaquin Effinger, Travis Trussell, Deacon Greenfield, and now throw in the 998 of Mike Key, as now we have the 8 there. Bob Kucera again spinning. So it looks like Bob Kucera's night is going to be done because he is back in the pits after that second spin within a relatively short time.
Yeah, we'll see if he checks out of the session or not, or maybe he had some damage to the car that was impacting the handling. But yeah, kind of an unfortunate there for him. As we're tracking now, there is in the orange, yellow, and black. Number 223 is Justin Huffman. He started 10th. He's worked his way up to 9th and is challenging Jordy Fike. Fike having a real good run. He started 12th. He's up to 7th right now as Huffman is finding a Team Esport Racer sandwich there with Fike to the front and Greg Mack in the number 2 machine to the rear here. And I'm getting word here that Andrew Wozencroft has gone off track again. And we'll see if that affects things. He's been running 13th. I don't think he lost a position. But let's take a look here. This is the battle right now for second. Brian, we haven't checked in on John Vogel or Caleb Patry, I think, since the second lap here, and those two drivers, you can see they're not necessarily working together, but they even if they decide to, they've got almost 2 full seconds up to our leader Morgan Burkhardt.
Yeah, they almost are going to have to work together. Although I can tell you, John Vogel's really trying to push the issue to get past Caleb Patry. But at this point in the race here, with about 7 minutes left to go, it's going to be a little tough as we look back here just a little bit. And there's that battle we were talking about early on with Travis Trussell and the 32 of Deacon Greenfield. Both of those guys go around there. So again, turn 4 in that beach area, Greg, is starting to eat drivers up as we get through, as we take a look back here at our Caleb Patry, John Vogel battle.
That's right. And so they were side by side going through turn 1 onto the short straight here into the chicane. And, John Vogel has been nothing but, I don't want to say, he's taken advantage of pretty much everything everything that's been given to him. He had that great run and great win at Road Atlanta when we saw the 3 All Sports Racing teammates, Patry, Burkhardt, and Huffman, go side by side into turn 10A on the very last lap, and John Vogel sitting in 4th comes to take the win. We saw the great run that he had at Lime Rock, where Vogel again took the win, having not been your lead car going into the very last lap, but waited and saw Wanji Lin and Caleb Patry go off on the very last lap. I'm sorry, Vogel came in 3rd no, Vogel won at Lime Rock. But he's just seemingly been in the right place at the right time. He's pushed the issue when he needs to push the issue. Again, I think both he and Patry quite a bit back from Burkhardt, that they've got to find a way to work up as we're now over halfway. Matter of fact, we've only got about 7 minutes remaining in this 13-minute race. So we'll see here if they can do anything about it, as we're on board with Jordy Fike in that battle with Josh Justice. Oh, and it looks like they've got a car just ahead of them. And I think that was Jamison Huffman, Brian. That was
Jamison Huffman. Yeah, it was.
Who's having more than his share of issues in the carousel tonight.
Yeah, again, we talked about it, again, it gets to that off camber. If you overshot, that turn, or you don't get into the brakes, at a certain point, you will overcook that turn, and it will just make it tough to turn and get through all night long. And then you're trying to work through your brain there to try to battle to get back through, to try to get it back to be smooth, and it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and of course, these Spec Racer Fords, no anti-lock brakes or anything like that. If you go and you lock up those front wheels and you push off and understeer off there time after time, it's not doing it's not doing any great service to your left front tire there. And it just becomes, again, a self-fulfilling prophecy that you're going to go off there, because you've essentially been conditioning the equipment to do it every single lap. So let's take a look here, as we've got Justin Huffman. I think Jamison is 2 cars back Well, actually, I guess we've got about a half a lap before they get up there to the carousel. But if maybe we can stick into this group for another couple of turns here as they come over the crest of the hill at turn 9. And we're watching right now Jordy Fike in the 09. We've got Justin Huffman behind. And then 2 cars back, we've got Jamison Huffman. Let's see if we can hang here for just a second. And that time he gets the car under control. I think, of course, he might have had an issue possibly getting into the back of Greg Mack if he hadn't gotten the car woed down. But that looked a lot better. But again, I think if you carry a little bit less speed through there, certainly a little bit easier to negotiate that portion of the corner as we jump back over just ahead of that battle to, again, the 399 machine of Josh Justice, who's running 5th. Josh has picked up 6 positions since the start of the race. Then we've got Justin Huffman, and then we've got Greg Mack there, or pardon me, Jordy Fike, and then Justin Huffman. I don't want to leave Jordy out of the game here.
Yeah, him and Joshua Justice fighting for the most improved spots right now at +6. And now, as we talk about that, give it to Jordy Fike. Coming back. Well, now give it back to Justice. So again, those guys are really going at it here with about 4.5 minutes left to go.
Yeah, and that's such a great view, that overhead view, Brian, because you could see how early Jordy Fike got on the brakes compared to Justice. Justice got on the brakes maybe 20 feet later. You saw the lock up there. You saw all the tire smoke in the air, and he got the car under control. Speaking of under control or not under control, Jordy Fike, they're having an issue at turn 9. But as that car was just about to push off the driver's left and into the gravel trap at China Beach, Justice was able to gather it back up, and because he was on driver's left, he had position going up the hill into in the madness. Great little exchange there.
Yeah, very good. And then, as you said, then Jordy Fike getting a little loose right there, coming back up. Now he's going to fall back in the clutches of Jamison Huffman there. Jamison looked really good getting through that turn here, down through the start-finish line, back up through turn 1. So it looks like whatever problems Jamison was having there early on with that turn seems to been able to get through. But, when you drop back 5 positions from the start of the race, it just sometimes you just overcook it. As now Jordy Fike gets loose again on break through the chicane. So again, Jordy Fike trying to overdrive that car to try to catch back up to get to Joshua Justice. He's going to worry about Jamison Huffman here as we get towards the end of this race.
Yeah, and Huffman now moves to the inside. He's going to run all the way down here, and we'll see what happens. Again, Fike was on the brakes a little early. I don't think it's going to matter now as Huffman comes across the bow of that 09 car, taking over the spot. Move Jamison Huffman now up into 6th, a little bit further back. We've got Brennan Horn in the 45 machine alongside the 222, the orange and blue machine of Mark Santana. Horn, he's going to hold on to 11th position right now, having started in 6th place, though. He's making his way back up through the pack after that disappointing first lap where I think he did fall back into 12th. But I'm sure not the race that Brennan Horn wanted to have here. As we jump back now with just a little bit over 2 minutes remaining. So it should be this and probably one more lap. There is Morgan Burkhardt, who pretty much before we even finished the running down the starting grid, Brian, he was off and away, long ahead of a good portion of the field here. And he continues to stretch that advantage right now. You can see here, we just had up there some of the lap times over the past 5 laps or so of Burkhardt versus Caleb Patry, and he's sitting with about a 2.5 second advantage over his teammate.
Pretty consistent run all the way through. You're right. Right at the beginning of the start there, he was able to jump out, and then it became where people behind him were battling and started making the mistakes. As we rewind a little bit, Grant Vogel getting that spin, causing everybody to hold up there a little bit to get out of that way, as it looks like Jamison Huffman now is going to get spun between him and Joshua Justice.
Yeah, and I don't think there was any contact there from the looks of it. It looks like Huffman, he just got out of the throttle, and you could see the easy, lazy little spin that the rear end was making, and Justice, I think, was very lucky not to have been collected in that. So Huffman, again, tough day. He drops back now to 8th here as he loses a position not only to Josh Justice, but also to Jordy Fike and to Greg Mack as well.
Yeah, kind of right there as I was talking about it. I mean, caused me to swallow wrong there. I wasn't expecting him to spin.
All right, so we're on the very last lap now. There go. Take a quick swig of water there, Brian. Get all the dust and dirt out of your lungs, and we're on the last lap here. And Morgan Burkhardt successfully negotiates the keyhole. Caleb Patry, a little bit of a challenge there. Again, you know, these drivers from the All Sports Racing team, they are for the most part using the same setups, but you know, it depending on what you do and the temperatures and what have you. You know, you may have parts of the race where the tires are good, parts where they're not, parts where the car is stable, parts where it's not, perhaps because there's less fuel in the car and less weight at the rear. But Caleb Patry, at now, he is, he can, I think, afford to maybe bobble a little bit. He's opened up now, what, about a 3-second advantage, 3.5-second advantage over John Vogel. So Vogel, who had been pushing Patry so hard for so long, so early in this race, now is going to just have to be content, I think, with a third-place finish as we have Morgan Burkhardt now comes through turn number 10, heads down the hill into the keyhole. Only 2 more corners remain, and Morgan Burkhardt, who has controlled this race from the very beginning, will come across the line, will take the win. Let's see if he spins the car out into the wall like he did in the MX-5s. No. But look at this, Brian. John Vogel picks up 3 seconds. We're going to have to see exactly what happened here, because Caleb Patry, who had second place wrapped up with only 4 corners remaining, he comes home in third position. John Vogel, once again, in the right place at the right time, takes the second step on the podium to finish in second. Here, let's take a look at the replay.
Yeah, it looks like coming into this off corner cambered run there, it does look like that Patrick got loose and ended up spinning, and then tried to get it collected pretty quickly, but John Vogel was just a little bit too quick there.
There you go. So the carousel here at Mid-Ohio, once again, the nemesis of the All Sports Racing team, and Caleb Patry, he's going to come home in third. Finishing in fourth, Edgar Sancinelli, great run for him. Started in 9th, picks up 5 positions in today's race. Josh Justice finishes 6th. He started in 11th, so he picked up 6 positions. Jordy Fike, he finishes in 6th tonight. Greg Mack, 7th. Jamison Huffman has to be content with 8th. I'm sure not what he wanted to have after having started on the outside of row number 1. His father, Justin Huffman, will finish in 9th. Brennan Horan, who started 6th tonight, will round out the top 10. All right, so we are now, Brian, going to bring in our top 2 finishers, and I think we've already spoken to them once tonight already. But first, let us bring in well, actually, we're going to see if John Vogel magically appears. But in the meantime, why don't we bring in our third-place finisher, Caleb Patry.
Caleb Patry, not the way you wanted to finish this race, I'm assuming there. Talk about that last corner on that last lap. What happened, and how did that car get away from you?
Well, basically the last 2 laps or so, the car was getting really, really sketchy to drive. I think I was just asking too much for it, just trying to see what I could do to close the gap on Morgan. But yeah, I mean, I nearly lost it maybe 2 or 3 times before that. And then, yeah, it just kind of got away from me in that last turn and yeah, gave up second spot.
Well, that's not the way you want to finish, but I know these things can get very, very tricky when it comes. But again, congratulations on finishing third place here at Mid-Ohio. Who do you want to thank tonight for this race?
Well, again, Steve Ray, Ray Esports for setting these events up, Spec Racer Sports for their sponsorship, Apex Racing TV for their broadcasting, and Team All Sports for their support as well.
All right. Well, again, congratulations on third place tonight here at Mid-Ohio. Greg, I'm going to send it back over to you.
All right, and of course, congratulations to Caleb Patry with his podium tonight. Wraps up his 3rd championship of the season, and he is your regular season champion in Spec Racer 4. Congratulations, Caleb. All right, so let's now bring in John Vogel, who happens to always be in the right place at the right time. He finishes 2nd tonight in Spec Racer 4.
John Vogel, congratulations. I tell you what, that rabbit's foot's really getting a workout here, buddy, in these last couple of weeks here. Talk about that run and talk about what you looked out and you saw outside of that helmet there going into that last turn with Caleb Patry being sideways.
Well, my son even came in and raced with us. I couldn't believe he got up the pace as quick as he did. And I thought, oh, we're in good shape here because those guys have always got teammates, right? And Morgan's running away, and Caleb, he wasn't blocking. He was running great lap times, but the track is so tight. You know, I tried a couple of spots, and I just decided to make a lunge in turn one and see if I could shake him. And I got an awful off track, like a 1.8, and it was over. So, I don't know.
But again, listen, you fought back hard. You got up on the back bumper of these young little whippersnappers there, and were able to get through and come home second place. So again, congratulations on finishing second here at Mid-Ohio. Who do you want to thank tonight for this race?
It's got to be Carrier Air Conditioning. They rock. They support our real racing program and all our mechanics that help out at the racetrack at the big races. The guys at Elite Autosport are great. And you guys and Steve Ray, I don't know how much work he's doing to do this, but I mean, you can message him at any time and he answers. I don't know what's up with that. He better answer his wife like that because he's very accessible. So anyway, we appreciate you guys.
The folks at Southwest.
Well, I tell you what, again, congratulations on finishing second here at Mid-Ohio. And Greg, with that, I'll send it back over to you.
All right. And
Thanks,
hopefully, and yeah, Grant got up to speed pretty darn quickly there tonight. It was unfortunate to see him go around, but it looked like a great race for both of you working there, John.
Thank you, Greg.
All right, so let's move on now. That was John Vogel finishing second tonight in the number 4 machine, and now we are going to bring in our winner, taking his second win of the evening, Morgan Burkhardt from the All Sports Racing team.
Morgan Burkhardt, what can I say? I'm sure you're standing there holding the broom, waiting for the sweep for the evening. Talk about this run. It was one of the smoothest runs I think I've seen you in the last 2 years run in this Spec Racer Ford at a tough track at Mid-Ohio. Talk about that race tonight.
Well, it was a lot of fun. It's one of the first relaxing, boring races that I've had, and I welcome a boring race. It's good addition to what usually goes on. But yeah, car felt really hooked up, and I got lucky with the two behind me fighting through the keyhole and the chicane on lap 1, and I was able to just start to break the draft and then just keep it on the road from there.
Well, I tell you what, it was such a sight to see, and I know as you talk about, every now and then you've got to like a boring race, especially when you're out in front of that. But I tell you what, that was one of the smoothest races I think I've seen. Not only you run, but be able to work your way out and get even further out, and especially on a tough track. So again, congratulations with the sweep tonight in both of those races. And who do you like to thank tonight?
Well, I'd like to thank Caleb and Jameson. Sad that they had not the best performances tonight, but it happens to everybody. Like to thank my grandparents and my parents for making all of this possible, and Premier Racing Setups for helping us out with setup building. Really good people over there.
All right. Well, again, congratulations winning here tonight. And Greg, with that, I'll send it over to you.
All right, there you go. Morgan Burkhardt, driver of the number 40 Spec Racer Ford, taking the win tonight. And his second win of the evening, so he gets the sweep. All right, so just to recap the finishing order in our second race tonight, Morgan Burkhardt taking the win, John Vogel second, Caleb Patry, that is your podium. Edgar Sancinelli finishes 4th with Josh Justice finishing 5th, Jordy Fike, Greg Mack, Jameson Huffman, Justin Huffman, Brendan Horan, and Grant. Jameson and Justin 9th and 10th, or 8th and 9th, and then Brendan Horan rounding out the top 10. And so before we wrap things up tonight, wanted to, of course, thank our great sponsor of the race you just watched. That is Spec Racer Sports, who joined us here for season number 4. Their mission is to help fuel and support your addiction to road racing. And they feel that the way to accomplish this is by providing exceptional customer support, the parts and services you need when you need them, and at a fair competitive price. Spec Racer Sports currently stables Spec Racer Fords and offers rental cars that are exceptionally prepared trackside at Motorsports Ranch Houston and provide access to the track for a rental or a test drive, and that can easily be arranged. In addition to new car sales, storage, and support, they've got a complement of technical services such as chassis dyno work, driver coaching, and fabrication that they offer at very competitive rates. To find out more about Spec Racer Sports and their services, head on over to specracersports.com. All right, Brian. So as we wrap things up here tonight from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, and we've been saying all night, of course, that it is the very last week of the regular season here in the Ray Esports Racing League, but that does not mean that we are done. Next week, we have our championship, the runoffs, a winner-take-all championship to be held out in wine country at Sonoma Raceway, and it should be a great time. We've got all three of our classes. We've got the RE2s, we've got the MX5s, we've got the Spec Racer Fords, which you just watched, and because we've got all this racing action, we're going to be starting an hour earlier. We're going to be starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time next Tuesday night, and we definitely want you to be there to join us. It is always a great event, lots of great racing, lots of great personalities, and then there's Brian and me. So definitely come and join us. And of course, if you haven't done so already, please give us a thumbs up here on YouTube if you liked what you saw, you liked what you heard. We know Jonathan Grabowski was watching. He better give us a thumbs up. And we know that he is probably already subscribed to Apex Racing TV, but if you haven't done so already, go ahead and click that big subscribe button and click on the notification bell so you can find out about all the great events that we have going on. And if you want to find out more about all things Apex Racing TV related, you can go to Twitter, to Facebook, to Instagram. All you got to do is search for one word. It's Apex Racing TV, and you'll be able to subscribe and get all the latest info from us. So for Brian Donati, for Dennis Branch in the production trailer there, I'm Greg Ginsburg. Again, remember, see us next Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern from Sonoma Raceway for the runoffs. Everybody, have a great week and God bless.